Hello and welcome to another Happily Letter After tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to create a piece similar to this one here, where we are going to use a font and then we're going to create our own lettering based on that font, but with like our own twist. We're going to do our own kind of flourishing to it, like in here. So this is all based off the font Bodoni, and if you follow me on Instagram, you've already seen this. This is a quote from my favorite author, Sarah J. Maas. It's from one of her book series, A Throne of Glass. And so I lettered this quote using that font. And before we get into the piece that we're gonna do, I'm going to show you the steps that I did to create this one so you can kind of get an idea. I'll take you through. Let's do the time-lapse replay real quick so you can see. So what I did is I went through and I got the font. I made it lighter on a different layer. I sketched out all the letters and I added the flourishes. So this is my sketching layer right here that I did with my pencil brush. And so I went through and I picked out which letters we're going to have the flourishes so that it looks, you know, really pretty and fancy. And they're not all the same either. Like if you look, all the letters are different. And then I went over on a separate layer with a monoline brush and I retraced everything after I had figured out how I wanted to look. I retraced everything with a monoline brush so it's solid. And I did it all in one color at first. And after that, I had gone through and I had selected different letters and I did each letter different colors to change it up a bit so that it had more visual interest. And actually down here, The Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, I decided not to keep that. I felt like it was too much and I decided I didn't want it down there anymore. So at the end, I got rid of that. And then I drew some stars in there, and as you can see, like I changed the colors. And I went through a lot of back and forth with colors on which ones I wanted to use, which ones I didn't want to use. I couldn't decide. I was having trouble figuring out which colors to go with. So just finish that there. So this is kind of what we're going to be doing, but we're going to do something more simpler. We're going to do just one word. We're going to do spring since it's March and spring is on its way with nicer weather, I hope. All right, so in Procreate, go to the little plus on the top, and we're gonna get a new canvas. I have a large square that I use when I post on Instagram, and it's 3000 by 3000 pixels at 300 DPI, just in case I do decide to print it. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go to the wrench icon, and we're gonna go to add, and we're gonna do add text. So we're going to, and I do this with my finger instead of the Apple Pencil so that I have the keyboard. I feel more comfortable with the keyboard versus the Apple Pencil to do the lettering, because you write it in, which doesn't always recognize the letters, and I kind of am old school and I like this way better. So we're gonna just type out the word spring and go ahead and tap on it until it's highlighted, and we're gonna click on the double A's right here, and we're gonna change our font. And I'm gonna use the same font I used on that other piece, the Bodoni 72, and I'm gonna make it bold. Well, let me see. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with the book. And we can change the size by sliding it here. But if we decide, you know what, we're done, let's say we're done with this, and we decide, you know what, I don't think it's big enough, we can go in here with the arrow tool, and you can just slide it out and make it bigger, which is what we're gonna do here. And if you have uniform selected, turn on snapping, and you can drag until you get these two orange crosshairs. It'll tell you it is directly in the middle. Okay, so now what we can do is we're gonna drag this layer underneath layer one. Layer one is the one we had when we first opened this file. Anytime you add a text layer, it's gonna go to the layer above on its own layer. Okay, so we're gonna click the N. Let's reduce the opacity. I want to be able to barely see it, but still see it for guideline purposes. So I don't know if you can see it still on the screen, but I have it at 17% right now. And we're gonna go to layer 1, and I'm gonna use the pencil brush that I have in my lettering set. And for this piece, I want to keep it at the sketchy, I want the sketchy look. I want to keep the sketchy look. So I'm not going to go back over it with a monoline pencil like I did in that piece I showed you. If you want to do that, then go for it. There is nothing wrong with that. This is your piece. I just like the sketchy look. So I was kind of torn when between keeping my other piece at sketchy or doing monoline, but I decided to go with the monoline ultimately. So next thing I'm gonna do is, if you haven't downloaded my color palette that I provided for this video, it's completely free. I'll leave a link for you. It's Spring Pastels. And what I'm gonna do is, in our layers, I'm gonna go to the background color, and I'm gonna choose this dark blue down here. It's hard to see against the black, but it's there. So it's this nice dark blue, and it gives a nice contrast for our pretty rainbow pastel spring colors we have here. So in layer 1, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put each letter on a separate layer just in case I want to change anything. It'll make life a little easier. Now, if you're doing a quote like I did, I would do it all on one layer, and then, because otherwise you have a million layers. But because this is a short one, you know what, actually I'm going to leave it because they're not overlapping. So, sorry, I change my mind a lot sometimes. I'm just going to leave it like this for now. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to select the first color, it's pink. I'm going to zoom in here so I can see a little better. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start tracing. Oh, and if you need to know the size of the brush, I have my size at 27% at 100% opacity. So I'm going to go ahead and start tracing and coloring in. And we can always go in and change things when we're done. Like I said, if you're doing the monoline version where you're going to go back over it with a monoline, then don't worry about any mistakes you have, because you're going to cover them up anyway. This will just be your sketch layer, but I kind of like the sketchy look, so I want to go with it for this piece. I like the texture that the pencil gives, and I want to just stick with it. And it beats having an extra step. Not that I'm being lazy, I promise. I do like this look to it. It has this nice grainy, gritty look to it, and I think it looks really pretty. And Procreate comes with a lot of really cool gritty texture brushes. If you haven't tried any of the default brushes out, I recommend playing with them because they are very awesome. Some of them, they've got really nice textures that you can use in any of your pieces. And anytime you download any brush sets, always experiment with how to use them, how you like to use them, and you can watch video tutorials like I have and other artists have with their brush sets to see how they recommend using them as well. And it gives you ideas, and then you don't feel stuck in a rut on the same brushes or how to use them. But everybody kind of gets their default brushes, their own default brushes that they go to time and time again. And if you're a brush junkie like me, you keep adding to the collection. So I have brushes from so many different artists and letters, and so my collection's ever growing, and I hope that Procreate never crashes on me from all the brushes that I do have. All right, so now I do not have a reference sheet on the lettering that I did for this, and I might come up with one for you in the future. So like for the S, I don't have any, I only have this one capital S here, and I think I like that. So what I think I might do is I might incorporate that swirl in there. So what we can do is, if we go back to this, because I don't like how plain that is, so I can go and I can't 2-finger tap because I got out of it, sorry. If you get out of your piece and then go back, you can't do that. But I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go to the eraser tool, and I have, for my eraser, I'm gonna do medium monoline, also in my lettering pack. And I'm just gonna go ahead and erase some of this. And then I'm gonna go and, oops. Now I can 2-finger tap. Go back to my brush and don't like how that swirl turned out. Sometimes if you zoom out to do a swirl like that, it works better. So, and it takes a few tries. If you feel like, oh, I can't get it, you know, please remember that every artist and letterer does not get it on the first go. It may look easy, especially if you watch like the time-lapse videos. It's like, man, they got it almost right away. No, that's not the case. All right, I don't like how thick this is right in this little area here. If you hold down on your eraser, it will pick up the same brush that you were using for your lettering brush here. So it'll pick up on that same one you were using to draw. So then you get that same texture. Just a fun little cheater way to do that right now. I might keep this right here for now. At least I'm going to for now, because I don't know. I kind of liked how the S sprung to the I, but I feel like it's too big of a jump since the I is in the middle of this word. I feel like it's gonna be too far out. So I have another idea. I had the letter I had swirled like up here and then around, and we'll get to that when I get over to that letter. All right, the P. So I want to do flourishes where I want my flourishes to be kind of even on the top and bottom, because I'm not going to put any other designs on this piece. I want it to just be strictly lettering and flourishing. And you can do doodles like flowers and stuff since it's spring. But for this piece, I'm going to stick with flourishes. So my P and my G are my descending letters, which means they're hanging below. So those are my options for doing flourishes that are on the bottom. On the top, I don't have anything, unfortunately. I don't have any H's, I don't have any T's or anything like that. The S we can do a swirl up here, which I might get to, but first I want to see how the rest is going to look. The G, what I think I'm going to do, and again, we'll get to this when we get to the end. I think the P is the one I'm going to have like the main swirl down here. And then the G, I want to have it come up and around. So we're going to make it work. We're going to, or at least we're going to try to make it work. And if not, what we're going to do is we're going to think of something else. So that's the thing, like when you're designing your lettering, you kind of have to try to plan it out in your head. It doesn't always work the way you think it will, though, in your head when you go to do it on paper. So let's go with our orange for the P. And it's literally all trial and error when you're doing lettering, and especially if you're doing it for your first time. Like if you're new at this, which is why I created this video. This is a video that anybody can do. It doesn't require a lot. You just need the font, and then you can trace, and then you have fun with adding your own little swirls and swooshes to it to make it your own and to make it more fun. So this piece is supposed to be more simple and not, you don't have to think too much about it. If you do a different word where you have like the ascenders, again, those are the parts that go above, you know, like an H and a T, then you have an easier time trying, you know, with your swirls and flourishes. But for this word, this one's a bit of a challenge, so we will be challenged together doing this, especially if you are following me as I'm going through this. So we'll go through this and we'll make it work as best as we can. Okay, so now we have that part of our P, and what I'm gonna do, so you want, downstrokes typically are thicker, and then the upstrokes, obviously this is not, this isn't calligraphy lettering, so it's a little bit different because it's in a font, but you kind of have to ad-lib this a little bit. That's too weird. Let's see. I think that could work. Maybe. Okay, let me see, one more. That's not bad. Okay, I kind of like that. And again, make these your own, you know, make your own. If you need ideas for different types of flourishes, if you go on Pinterest, there are so many ideas for lettering, for flourishing. That's how I get a lot of mine, is I look at other letters, other fonts, and I see, okay, how do they do their flourish on this letter in particular or whatever, and then that's kind of how I do it. And I think I'm gonna keep it thin, or at least for now, because I kind of like how that looks. All right, so next color, we'll do yellow. Feel free to do this in any color order you want. I'm a little OCD, so I like to go in the rainbow order. But this is your piece, so you can do what you want with it. The R is a little more plain, I guess you can say. There's not much going on with the R. But I think what I'm gonna do, instead of having a flat bottom, I think I'm gonna do it curved like that and not go like all the way, kind of do it uneven. I think that gives it some character. And I absolutely love fonts like this where they have this big round part. It's so pretty, I think. All right, now we get to do that eye with that little swoosh I was talking about. So I like that this curves so easily for us. So I'm gonna go ahead and zoom out a little bit here. And I have my green selected. I'm gonna make this as, there we go. So kind of like you're doing like the @ symbol for, like, you know, internet or whatever. You just do that swoosh and connect it to your eye. I think it just makes it look so interesting. And you can bring your dot of your eye down closer if you want, so it's more cradled into that part if you want. I'm, like I said, again, I'm doing this more of a sketchy style. If you want straight lines, if you draw down, or just draw and then you hold it, and then you get this straight line. But it looks more like a gradient when you do that instead of with the texture. So if you want the texture but you want it straight, go as slow as you can, and then you can get it to look more even if that's the look you're going for. The N, if we didn't have the G here, the N could curve because the G is kind of taking up room, which we're not going to do the same. We're not going to follow the same exact path for this G, but the N could curve down, but I don't want too much going on down here because we don't have enough going on up here yet. So, all right, we're going to go with our blue. We are almost done. Isn't that exciting? All right, so we're going to go. Oh, that was kind of really shaky. I'm trying to zoom in here as much as possible so you guys can actually see what I'm doing, because I work on a smaller iPad. I don't have the 12.5 or whatever it is, that large one. I work on a 10.5 screen, which they recommend go bigger, but I definitely don't recommend a 9.5. I think it's way too small, but I don't like big. I draw actually kind of small, and so for me it's easier to just zoom in if I need to. And I like something that's travel size, because this fits perfectly in my purse. So I really, really like going small. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a tiny bit of a swoosh down here. Not a lot, I want a little bit. But yes, with the iPad size, go with what size you feel comfortable with. I recommend doing what I did and going to a store that has them, like the Apple Store, and feeling them, like holding them, and see which one feels comfortable for you. It's really important that you get one that feels right for you. And trust me, I spent hours holding different iPad sizes trying to figure out which one I like. Okay, so the G is going to be tricky because we want to try to get it to swoosh up. So here's what we're gonna do. We are going to go ahead and we're gonna work on this top part. And then once we get to the bottom part, we might have to do a couple different sketches. And this is where doing different layers will come in handy if you want to experiment with different layers to get a feel for what you like better in terms of style. So we're just gonna do this top O part up here in our purple, and then we're gonna experiment with, and sometimes you will get it right on your first try and you will love it. You will love how that, how your flourish turned out. And that is the most amazing feeling, by the way, because usually it takes a million tries, or you decide you don't like it, you do something different, and you decide, I liked the first one better, and I wish I would have had a different layer. And you try to recreate it. It doesn't always work out, but sometimes you just have to learn the hard way and keep going at it. And it's muscle memory then too, and then it gets you used to drawing like that, and then you can get the practice in that you need, and you'll be good to go for the next project. All right, so I think what we can do is we can give ourselves a little bit of leeway with this, and we can erase this part on the S after we get our G, and we can have the G flourish up here, and then we can have the S flourishing up here too on this side. So the G on this side and the S on this side. That way we have some balance. So already, look at how awesome this looks. And this is so easy. All we're doing is tracing and then adding our own little flair to it. All right, so I kind of like the fun shape here. And there's so much you can do with this G, because you can go in like this, and I have it on my other piece. You can kind of dissect my piece if you want to look at it. I don't know what this lettering style is called, honestly. I don't know if it has a name. I based that other piece off of another piece from Dawn Nicole. She's a letterer. She had posted online on Instagram a piece that she did with these kind of flourishes used, and I'm assuming she used a font and did this similar thing. I'm not sure, but I just got inspired to do it and just make it up on my own. So I don't know if it has a name to it. Yeah, it looks a little weird. Again, it's gonna be one of those things where closer. So let's see. Maybe that'll work. Now I'm gonna do another layer, and I'm gonna try that pink, and I wanna see how it looks with, if we were to do oh no, I don't want it the same. You see, it can be pretty tricky to get these flourishes sometimes, to get them just right. It's trial and error for sure. Like it can take hours. Like I've spent hours before, and then I've had to put it away and then come back to it. So it's one of those things where the more I look at this G, the more I like it. So you know what? I'm gonna get rid of that layer for now, and I'm gonna just work on our G, and we'll come back to that S again. So the more I look at this, the more I'm really liking this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to follow through, and I'm gonna kind of follow this. I like this shape here that this G from the font gave us. Oops, okay. Let me readjust it. We were going off course here because we changed the way that looks a little bit. So we gotta follow our new path. And I don't always practice these tutorials before I do them with you. I like to be raw and real with you on these and kind of make them up as I go. Like I have an idea in my head always of what kind of tutorial I'm gonna do for you. This is one that I did not practice, and there's actually a long story about why. If you're an email subscriber, you will know. So, our S. We're gonna go in and we are going to erase our little knobby thing at the top here. And I'm gonna curve it down like this. Okay. Now, the tricky part, let's figure out how we want this S to curve. We're going to and sometimes if you turn it another way, ignore the fact that your lettering is upside down. Because sometimes you can get something completely different. Oh, I kind of like that, but let me try it again in a different way. No. Oops. Shoot, see, that's what I mean. Like sometimes you get one you like and then you get rid of it. So let me try to do something similar to that again. It's all about trial and error, trial and error. Okay. Okay, I kind of like that. I do. Okay. So to make it work here, we're gonna have to erase a little bit to make it fit kind of in this letter, and then make it more of a natural curve because it was kind of getting jaggedy. And then we'll do our little teardrop shape. All right, I like that. Okay, so we can turn off our text and we now have our spring lettering. Now, keep in mind that you can do any way you want to do this, any word. This is just something that I had decided to do, spring. And if you're, see how we have the thick here, it makes it easy to read. I would not do thick in all of your flourishes because it's going to be harder to read and it'll take away from your main lettering. So I may go back in and add some flowers or other designs. In here you can do some dotted lines or something, and add some more visual interest, add some more other kind of flourishing that's not part of your lettering. Like you can go in here and kind of do some like outlining, you know, along these in different colors if you want, you know, adding some stuff here and there. That's up to you, or you can keep it simple like this. This is meant to be a simple beginner's like project. The most complicated part is trying to decide how you want your flourishes to be. So I hope that this was simple enough for you to follow along with and that you enjoyed this. And I would love to see what you come up with. So please, if you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe so you can see all my future videos. I'm doing at least one video or tutorial, depending. Sometimes I've written tutorials on my blog per month. And please subscribe to my emails if you haven't already, so you can get some free brushes, and you'll be the first to know about any sales and new things that I am coming out with. And please share with me on Instagram if you do create this. I would love to see your work. So my tag on Instagram is Wonder Wednesday Projects, and you can tag me at BlackRose613. Thank you, and I hope to hear from you and see your work.